Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After running through the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A where we answer Dolphins fans' questions. And it feels so good to have 3 wins in a row. Big win, obviously, Sunday against the Jets. After starting the year that we did, it just feels great. So let's get into the news you need to know about. This first news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. The Dolphins are going to keep Austin Jackson at guard. The Dolphins have shelved their offensive line, obviously, on a few occasions this year, tinkering with just about every starter's role. The highest profile move came recently when the team moved the 2020 first-round pick Austin Jackson from left tackle to left guard. While this could be a temporary fix, Brian Flores said that he expects Liam Eichenberg to stay at tackle for the rest of the year. Now, you guys have probably already heard about this, but I thought we would throw this in here because it's an interesting topic for Dolphins fans, obviously. The future of this offensive line is very foggy. I hope they obviously address it in the offseason. There's a lot of issues with it. I thought on Sunday they did a fantastic job the entire game. And I know you might say, well, that was the Jets' defensive line. But, this team didn't produce against the Texans' defensive line. That is obviously very poor as well. So it was nice to see them put a good game together as a whole. A full 60-minute game. I thought they played pretty good. The pressures that they did give up were on blitzes, and it still wasn't awful on those 2 pressures. I think they only had 3 pressures in the second half, if I'm not mistaken. So from a pass protection standpoint, from a run blocking, I hate the word standpoint, it was all pretty awesome to put a 60-minute game together, especially against the Jets on the road. So hopefully they can trend in that direction, but I'm not holding out hope for anything with this offensive line. Who knows how they're going to play the rest of the year. They've had up and down moments. Like, they played well against New England week 1. They had a decent game against Jacksonville, even though the run game was non-existent. There's just the Falcons game was all over the place. It's been very up and down. Sometimes it's in a game where it's been up and down. By a drive, it's been up and down. But yeah, nonetheless, this was the best game that they've had all year, and it was awesome to really take advantage of that as an offense and be able to close out that game. So let's move on to that news story. This news story came out today. If you're following your Bleacher Report stream, Will Fuller is still doubtful to play on Sunday. Hopefully that changes. I know that they're apparently Coach Flores said that they are testing out his injuries as of right now, so we'll see. Hopefully Devontae Parker can at least come back against the Panthers, but he's also being tested today, so we'll probably get more news about that later in the week. But for right now, I do not expect Will Fuller to play on Sunday. It just, if you read the tea leaves, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. That's unfortunate. He's been not such a... Obviously, we knew that this would probably happen. We're like, at least we could get like 10 games out of him. We're not even going to get that out of him, it looks like. If he comes back to play at all, that would be a blessing. He's a very good player. When he did play with us, he showed flashes of what he could do down the field. If we had a better offensive line, it would have been even more interesting to see how we would have ran the offense with a full healthy set of receivers. That would have been fun to watch. But unfortunately, we've been one-dimensional this entire season, and we can't pass protect very well. So we haven't been able to take advantage of some of that stuff down the field. Hopefully we can get this run game decent, because that'll help the pass protection for the rest of the year, and maybe we can take advantage of more down-the-field throws. And we saw down-the-field throws on Sunday to Matt Collins, and that was beautiful. I mean, as a fan of this team especially, to see that was awesome, And, the Dolphins have a weird history with the deep ball. You remember when Tannehill was here, he couldn't throw the deep ball, and then he goes to Tennessee, and he's one of the best deep ball throwers in the league for the last 3 years. So, and if you watch Tua's tape in college, I know it's a different level of competition, but one of the best things he did was throw the ball down the field. And it was nice to see that on Sunday. That's for sure. So hopefully we can keep taking advantage of some of that stuff up front. And maybe when Will Fuller does come back, hopefully he does, And Devontae Parker, we can take more shots down the field with them. Because I do think it's more, and I know we blame the offensive coordinators for some of the stuff, especially early in the year, but I think it is getting better. I like the game plan on Sunday, and I think more of it, especially now, has to do with the offensive line than it does the play calling, because the play calling is affected by, obviously, the talent that you have on the field, and you would be an absolute moron to think, watching this offensive line play and think, oh, we could do some of these things. So I don't necessarily blame the coaching staff that much for it. I think they're doing what they can with what they have. So let's move on from that. And I don't think there's really any other news. That was pretty much it. So let's move into the last news story of the day, which is it's weird to say the day. We're only 6 minutes into the video. The Dolphins defeat the New York Jets 24-17. I've obviously already made some observations of the game. I think just some quick observations of the game offensively. Obviously, the offensive line had their best game. Myles Gaskin, I think, should be retained for next year as a third down back. I think he can be a pretty dang good one. He is not a great first and second down back, though. I think we left some yards on the field on Sunday. He just doesn't run with a lot of power. The dude's only 5'8", and it's amazing that he's been able to stay healthy this year because he's taken some brutal hits this season behind this bad offensive line. So his toughness is out of this world. But if we just had a little bit more, if we had a bigger back presence back there who also has some pop and can hit the hole a little bit, we just need to improve our first and second down running, not only with the offensive line but the running back. I think, like I said, I think we left some yards on the field there, especially, which led to some third and short situations that we couldn't convert because of that. And I think we just need to add that element to the offense. One of the other things I observed on offense, and really for the entire game, is this draft class is pretty awesome. Javon Holland was a hit, of course. Jalen Phillips was a hit. He's getting better every week. He looks like an absolute monster out there. And then Jalen Waddle is a huge part of this offense and has been consistently productive for this team. He only had 65 yards on 8 catches. He averaged 8 yards a catch in this game. But the stats are misleading. If this offensive line was better, he would have, I think, obviously a higher yard average. But if it wasn't for him, I don't know how this offense would move. Jalen Waddle has been fantastic this year. So that's another, I think all of us have recognized this season, is that draft class was pretty good, especially with those 3 players. I loved the game plan. That's another thing before we move on to the defensive side of the ball. I loved the game plan. I thought it was pretty cool. We took our shots down the field, and we kind of saw that in Baltimore, where we were taking a little bit more shots down the field. And we did it in this game, and obviously being able to hit on a 68-yard touchdown pass it was awesome. It was a good feeling, especially when this offense the short passing game is such a big part of it. To go down the field once in a while, it obviously feels great. So I loved the game plan. We were able to consistently move the ball, and it really wasn't the coaching or the play calling that stalled some of those drives out. It was either bad refereeing or we just weren't able to convert easy short yardage situations. So for the most part, it was one of the better game plans all year by our offensive coaching staff. So it was a great day offensively. And we can talk about Tua really quick. Tua was on fire in that second half. He made a lot of clutch plays in this game. That third down pass to Myles Gaskin was fantastic. Pretty much no misreads. He missed a few last week against Baltimore, and that kind of stood out, but it was maybe a little bit rusty. We had the bad interception in the first half, which was not a good throw by any stretch of the imagination. Had a really good first drive, and really, I think, did a fantastic job of helping us close out the game with that fourth quarter drive. So I thought Tua had a great game. The more I watch Tua, it's clear that he gets better, or he's getting better. I think a lot of people, and this is, I honestly think this is true. I think a lot of people are a little bit hard on him. And I can't wait to see what he can do behind a better offensive line and a better run game. Because he is, I mean, guys, we've passed 70% of the time this year, and the pass protection hasn't been great, and the receivers have been in and out of the lineup constantly. We've shuffled obviously we shuffled the offensive line in and out. It just hasn't been a great year personnel wise on offense, and it just gets me even more excited to see him get better, and just to think of okay, if we just get him a middle of the road run game and a good offensive line that can do their job, I think Tua will have a really, really, really good season. And I think some of the improvements that he's made on his game, I think he's just playing a lot faster. It seems more comfortable in the NFL game. And that allows him to take advantage of some of his gifts, which is one of his best attributes, is him moving in the pocket. He does that very, very well, and that showed up in this game. I mean, if it wasn't for him and his great movement in the pocket, we wouldn't have gotten that touchdown to Matt Collins down the sideline. So I think that he's getting better at the NFL game, which allows him to kind of take advantage of those things that he did well in college, and you can kind of see that on the field. So all around, a pretty dang good day offensively. Tua is getting me more and more excited each and every single week. He is getting better, and I'm excited to see what he does in the future. Defensively, if you see, I didn't want to rant on this game too much. Defensively, I thought was fantastic again. I like the play calling was pretty good. I kind of have to tip my hat to the Jets. I thought they had a good offensive game plan for what we were trying to do, and I think we did a good job of kind of adjusting to it as the game went on to get some key stops in that second half. So hats off to Josh and Brian. And personnel-wise, Justin Coleman's playing a lot better. I don't know what has happened to Justin Coleman. I don't know if he's just drinking some special juice. I have no idea what's happened to him, but he's had a fantastic last 3 games. Really has. He's played really, really, really good football. X is playing like old X right now, which is awesome, and Byron Jones is having his best year in a Dolphins uniform. So all of those things are contributing. Jalen Phillips is getting really good. Obviously, Ogba's having a fantastic season. The interior, Zach Sealer is just fun to watch. Is really good. Christian Wilkins is better than he's ever been. Jerome Baker's playing a lot better than he did earlier in the year. So it really is from a play calling, and just everybody kind of getting better as a defense. Brandon Jones and Javon Holland are just they make impact plays every week. They have a really, really bright future ahead of them, and they're really good against the run too. Both very smart players too. Very smart players. And it fits this defense because this defense is very complicated. So they just fit the scheme to a T. They know what to do. We had a couple of just scratch your head busted coverage. Not really, just one. And it was obviously the 4th and goal. I don't know what, dude. Everybody was wide open, dude. I don't know what the call was, because nobody knew what the call was, and that kind of happened in the Baltimore game too, in a similar situation where I don't know if they heard a whistle, what the heck that happened in that game, but it was kind of a similar look to it, where everybody was just kind of looking at each other talking, and Joe Flacco just hiked the ball and scored an easy pitch and catch touchdown. So other than that, it was pretty awesome. I thought we played the run game pretty well. Some of the runs that they did pop were schematic runs where they just kind of caught us in a good. What they did versus our front just breaks what we're trying to do defensively. So it wasn't a personnel problem at all. So yeah, defensively it's been fantastic these last 4 games really. And it's nice to see some consistency on one side of the football, which is the defensive side. And the rookies are playing out of their mind, and the young players are too. Brandon Jones and Javon Holland are going to be so fun to watch for the foreseeable future. I hope I don't know what contract I think he was recently extended, right? In 2019 maybe? But they have to keep him around and, keep some of this interior. Raekwon Davis, all of those guys in the middle are pretty dang good. The only thing this defense is missing is that joker linebacker. Because Van Ginkel is a fantastic pass rusher, but he cannot drop back in coverage. We do miss Kyle Van Noy, because of his coverage ability. I think we kind of underrated that as a team and as fans especially. So I think that's one thing they can address in the offseason defensively, is just kind of get someone who is a tweener linebacker who can play on the edge and can drop back in coverage. Yeah, so that is it. Fantastic. Just especially starting off the year that we did, to play like this, to see the defense kind of live up to what they're supposed to do. And I would love to see what the stats are, their down percentage, and all of those things, points allowed in the last 4 weeks, where the Dolphins rank in those categories. Because it's got to be pretty high, and it's nice to see them kind of, like I said, play to their talent level. And offensively, hopefully this offensive line can build off of this game and can continue to grow and get better, because there is a lot of young players on that offensive line. I think some of the things we did from a schematic standpoint, we ran a lot more power football, and leaned on the defensive front more than kind of trying to outsmart them. We did do some end arounds, but hopefully we can continue in that trend as well, play more power football, and hopefully we can get some sort of running game. Myles Gaskin had 87 yards rushing in this game. We don't have to get 100 yards. We just need to keep the defense honest, don't lose yards, and continue to build. Hopefully we can continue to build off of that Jets game. All right, let's get into the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. Hopefully, I don't want to rant on those segments too much. So hopefully I didn't stay too long with that. I'm interested to see how you guys think, and we're about to answer fans' questions right now. And I'm sure there's some stuff about Tua because he gets picked apart every single week. But I do like the way, I think he is getting better. His second half was phenomenal. From an eye test and just him bouncing back from that bad interception. It wasn't a bad read. He just lost control of the football. I don't know if it has something to do with this fractured. If anybody's had dude, I used to make fun of, I was like, or not make fun of, but it's like, how bad could I don't know, your finger or something like that bruised, or not broken, but bruised. Dude, I had messed up my finger recently, and I was trying to throw with my brother out there. It is no joke, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to report that right now. I don't know how Tua is throwing a football at all with a fractured finger. Because I have a bruised something. I don't know what it is, but it hurts real bad. And it's hard to throw a football. So I don't know if that had something to do with it. But he definitely, because the guy, Waddle was open. It was a crosser. He didn't drive the ball. He just lost control of it. And it was a bad interception. But it had nothing to do with the read. It was just not a good throw. Other than that, he was awesome. But I don't have no idea why, because Tua is usually pretty dang accurate. Don't know, and it wasn't a deep throw. It was like an intermediate route. He did miss one read in the first half. I forgot about that. He missed Albert Wilson on a drag. Have no idea. The commentators like the defensive line pushed it into it. He never looked over there. He saw it late and tried to get it to him. He never looked to his left. And that's what really caused that play to be a negative play. It didn't have anything to do with him not being able to see him. But anyway, the point is, other than those two plays, in the Albert Wilson read is very minor. He was awesome. And to lead us in that game, he's done that a few times this year, where he's gotten the lead back in the fourth quarter after maybe some shaky play there, but I thought he played phenomenal in that second half. He averaged, his yards per attempt were 12 in the second half, which is fantastic. And also shout out to Durham Smythe, who had a really nice game in this game. Nice to see one of our tight ends play a little bit more physical, but my point is Tua is getting better. I'm interested to see what you guys thought. And let's get into the fan questions. This first question comes from Maurice, as the dogs go crazy for no reason. Excuse me, sorry, I don't want to snort snot to the mic. Anyway, Maurice says, "Hey Scads, keep up the good work. What are your thoughts on Matt Collins? I think he plays with a ton of heart, and he has a great rapport with Tua. You think he deserves a roster spot or not?" Oh, yes, of course he does. He's a great special teams player. I hope just move him around. Put him at tight end, put him at receiver, do whatever the heck you have to do. But Matt Collins is a fantastic player. He just makes a few plays every game that help us win games, especially on this win streak. And he does He's really good at the deep routes. He's really good at those deep ends. Obviously, he scored a deep touchdown in that game. He's really good down the field, and he's a big body target, which a lot of our receivers like Albert Wilson and Waddle that are in the lineup right now are shorter guys. So it's nice to have him out there to run some of those deeper routes because it makes those completions a little bit easier. He's good at doing them, and he brings a lot of energy and effort. One of my favorite players on the team. So to answer your question, Maurice, absolutely. This next question comes from Chris. He says, "Hey, Skaggs, not really a question, more of a statement here. Although I love seeing Tua get better week to week, what frustrates me is that he can't play a complete game. The first half was terrible in my opinion. Second half was good, but I don't see Tua as a quarterback who has a full 60-minute game in him." It's a sucky place to throw in MetLife around this time of the year. I'm not trying to give the man excuses, but, it was, obviously, he made a couple bad plays there. He had a really good first drive, and then after that, it was a really shaky first half. It was a bad first half. I think Tua definitely has the ability to put a 60-minute game together. He's been one of the better players on offense this entire year. People forget he made a couple of nice throws against the Ravens to help us beat them. He's made a lot of big plays in games that were either close games that we lost or games that we won. And a lot of deciding plays. So I disagree with that. I think Tua, I think, and I know people probably don't want to hear this, but it is my opinion. And that is why I do this show, is to talk about Dolphins football, so I will share my opinion on this. But I think, and I really do believe, if he just gets not even a great run game, like a middle-of-the-road run game, and better pass protection, he is a Pro Bowl quarterback. I really do believe that. And I think we've seen that these last few weeks of what he could do. And I think a lot of the things that he's struggled with, I think a lot of those things have to do with some of the stuff that's around him. He doesn't get the excuses. I don't know why he doesn't get them that other quarterbacks do when it comes to personnel around him. His receiving core has been hurt all year. His offensive line is terrible. He has no run game. And if any other quarterback was dealing with that, they'd have 50,000 excuses. But for some reason, Tua doesn't get that. I don't really know why. Because he's played good football despite those things. So, to answer your question, Chris, yes, I'm very high on Tua, and I like what I see. This next question comes from KC Fanatic. He says, "I've been listening to your program, and I learned that your brother is a Panthers fan." That is true. "You probably know a lot about them. What is their weaknesses? How do we beat them?" They have a really talented football team. Their coaching staff isn't so good, though. Their offensive scheme is pretty bad. Their defensive scheme is a little all over the place as well. I think this is the hardest game the Dolphins are going to play for the rest of the year because the defensive line that they're going to play is a very good one. And they have really good linebackers too. So the front seven is going to be kind of a pain to deal with. And their back end is pretty good as well. They have Stephon Gilmore, A.J. Boye, who's a nice veteran player, and who am I missing? Dante Jackson, who's a good veteran player as well. So they're going to have their hands full on offense because of the offensive line. But if they can somehow beat them, then to me, that's the biggest mismatch on the schedule. They have harder games. They have hard games. Like, I think the Giants, Joe Judge is a really nice head coach. And then obviously the Patriots. But the Patriots, the Dolphins have them at home. And I'm interested to see how that game goes as well. But to me, the biggest mismatch for the rest of this schedule is definitely the Panthers because of their defensive line. So it's going to be a tough game to win. And they definitely have the talent, especially defensively, to pull it off. Because to be honest with you, I thought Baltimore was going to be the toughest game. If you included Baltimore, I think that would have been the toughest game. But it's going to be interesting to see what the Dolphins do. Obviously, Brian is game plan for Kim last year. And, it's going to be interesting to see how this game shakes out. But I think the thing that worries me the most is the Panthers' front seven. This next question comes from Jerry. He says, Skaggs, don't don't you think it's pointless to play 10 yards off man coverage every down? And when you're paying your corners $32 million, obviously you have to that when you run cover zero as much as we do, but you don't think it should be more situational. Okay, we got to redo this entire question. Okay, this is not preschool reading. I feel like we could get through this a little bit better. This is question comes from Jerry. He says, Skaggs, don't you think it's pointless to play 10 yards off in man coverage when you pay your corners $32 million a year? I would like us to do a little bit more. Don't you think it should be more situational? I feel like we give up too many screens, drag routes, slants, etc. I think the bend but don't break approach is nice, but I would like not to bend at all. Well, the last 4 weeks they haven't. I mean, maybe against Buffalo, but this game they kind of changed it up a little bit because the Jets had a pretty good game plan for that blitz. But they have definitely been a lot more aggressive. I mean, dude, they blitzed the blitz that we hit Joe. I mean, we blitzed a lot. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to always be that amoeba front that we run. But we still blitzed quite a few times in this game, and the Jets did burn us on one, the touchdown to Elijah Moore. But it took me a while to kind of understand why that Brian coaches it that way, why he coaches cover zero the way that he does. And it's honestly because when he bails out, he likes to slide people underneath coverage like in a curl flat or flood the middle of the field with his linebackers when they back out from mugging the gap. So it's kind of a weird... It's like a mixture. It's not like match cover. I guess it's the best way to kind of explain it. It's like match man. It's not like a cover 4 match or a cover 3 match or a quarters match or anything like that, which is the same thing as cover 4 match. I don't know why I said that. But it's a kind of a weird take on it, I guess you could say. And it's a unique defense that not a lot of people run in the league except New England, really. And that's why they have their corners off to look at the quarterback. Because sometimes they don't blitz everybody and they bail out. And it helps the corners out a lot as well. But they also are a fantastic... This team, especially the last 4 weeks, has done a fantastic job of man coverage. Like I said, Justin Coleman's playing a lot better, which helps things. X is healthier, which helps things a lot. He's playing better football than he did earlier in the year. And Byron Jones is having the best year of his career, like I've said multiple times. But I think a lot of those things have contributed to us winning these last 3 games. And I think the Dolphins, it's money well spent with Byron and X because they do a lot of heavy lifting in this defense. This next question comes from Brandon. He says, Tua looks like he still is getting used to the receivers. I think we should start Mac, Jalen, and Gesicki because he looks more comfortable with them versus others. Well, you make a great point, Brandon, and I think you're right because I think you have a great point where, yes, he does have more comfortability with them because he's played with them more. Those other guys have been in and out of the lineup in practice and in games. So that hurts the chemistry there. Plus, I think Mac Hollins, honestly can give a lot of the other receivers a run for the money when it comes to consistency. I think he just gives maximum effort on every play, which cannot be said for some of those other receivers like Devontae Parker, who kind of disappears in games sometimes. Mac Hollins, I think, is a little bit more consistent, and he just brings a different type of energy from game to game. So I think it's a little bit of that too. And yeah, so I think you definitely make a really, really good point, Brandon, and I do think a lot of it has to do with him not throwing to those guys as much. And the offensive identity is a little bit different when those guys are in the game as well. I think the short pass game when like Durham is involved in it, and Mac Hollins is involved in it, is a little bit better. I think when DP comes back, hopefully he can give us a little bit of spark to that. But I think those guys are a little bit better at that than maybe say like a Will Fuller or someone like that. All right, let's move on to the next question. This comes from Mark. He says, "Great win. Offense just needs to great win. Offense just seems to be inconsistent. I personally believe we'd be borderline unbeatable if our offense was the level of our defense. What say you? We'd definitely be a playoff team, that's for sure. I don't know if we'd be unbeatable, but yes, I agree with that. If this offense would have pulled its weight earlier in the year, then we would have won some of those games that we lost. And I think, it's not all on the offense. The defense has a good amount of blame to be put on them as well. But they just punt too much throughout the games. The defense is just on the field too long. They have no run game. So it's hard to string drives together on a consistent basis when you have to pass every down. But yes, it was a great win. And I do agree with you, Mark, that if the offense was more consistent, we definitely would have more games. We'll have one more games. This next question comes from Jack Pack. He says, I don't know if Tua is going to be great or just good. What I do know is if he can stay healthy, especially not with... He can't stay... Good Lord, let me redo this question. This question comes from Jack Pack. He says, I don't know if Tua is going to be great or just good. What I do know is that he can't stay healthy, especially not with this line. Jacoby is not a quality backup. Who would you like to see them sign to back up Tua next year? Keep in mind they will probably have to play 3 to 4 games a year. Well, if this run game can get better and this offensive line can get better, yes, I think that definitely helps Tua's games missed for sure. And I think you make a great point, Jack Pack. I don't really know. I mean, I don't know who's free agents and who's in free agency and who isn't. Maybe Fitzpatrick returns for a Cinderella year. Maybe the Dolphins don't want to do that. I don't know who they could go out there and get. Nobody really comes to mind right now. Sorry, guys. But you do make a good point, Jack Pack. This next question comes from Chip. He says, hey, Skaggs, how many wins would it take for Flo to keep his job? I think these last 3 games have proved, hey, man, it's a personnel problem. And we need to figure that out in this offseason. That's the biggest flaw of this team is offensively, we have to get better at the personnel. We just have to get better in the trenches. We have to get another running back. It's just too lackluster at that position. This next question comes from Richard. He says, Matt Collins reminds me of the Dolphins receiver Gadsden, making big plays downfield, and Duke Johnson should get more carries. He hits the run lanes quick with power against the Jets. Yeah, he did. He looked good. Clearly, he's been practicing pretty good. He's a really good receiving back as well. And I like Laird too. Hopefully, Ahmed is just not. I don't know what the Dolphins are seeing in practice, but clearly they're not too in love with that. But they really should have elevated Laird earlier in the year because we don't run the ball, and Malcolm Brown was never that guy in the pass game. So it's nice to see Laird out there and making plays again. But I do agree, Duke Johnson definitely should get more carries. He looked good. This last question comes from Jack Pack. He says, where is Hunter Long? Is he really that bad? He can't beat Shaheen for a roster spot, or are the coaches just idiots? That's a good question that I do not know the answer to. Maybe I was wrong about Hunter Long. Maybe he isn't as good as I thought he would be. I really liked him coming out of college. He's a good run blocker. He's a very good tight end, really, whether it's down the field or intermediate or whatever you want him to do. So I don't really know what the issue is with Hunter Long. Hopefully the Dolphins find something for him to do. I don't know. Hopefully it's not a talent thing. Maybe he's just too young. I know he's had some health issues. He had that really bad injury in the offseason, so maybe that has something to do with it. Because we thought he was going to miss the year after that injury in preseason, so maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. But I really like him as a player. Hopefully he can put it together. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Great 3 weeks of football for this franchise and for this team. I'm not, I know people are like, we can still go 10-7, which I'm 1,000% on that boat and on that train and obviously rooting for that to happen. But I just want I just want to see improvement from this offense. I really do. It's been really bad all year. And I think most of the blame goes to the offensive line. hopefully they can put a better second half of the year together. Hopefully the Dolphins kind of found what this offensive line does well in the run game, and they can lean on that. And I definitely want to see less Wildcat. If you want to run it in the red zone, fine. I'm okay with that, I guess. But other than that, I really hate the Wildcat a lot, so maybe we can take that out of the playbook. But anyway, we did score a touchdown with it. But after that, it was pretty bad. But, yeah, so hopefully the offensive line continues to get better. It's nice to see the Dolphins play good football and win games. And it does seem they're kind of forging an identity on offense. And hopefully they can continue to do that. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed. Watch out for some new videos coming out this week. Hopefully you guys will at least check those out. I think they'll be a little bit interesting, and it'll be interesting to Dolphins fans as well. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll see you guys in the next one.